Stories are 22 times more memorable than facts alone. Stories are intrinsic in everything that we do. We're human beings by nature, and storytelling was how we move from hunter-gatherers in our kind of society. And also, we were creating moments and passing information that inherently created language. So stories are a part of our physiology. For a sale to be completely correct, you must create two things. There must be desire and there must be logic, but desire will always succumb the logical part of the brain. So desire has to be created, and you create desire by accessing emotion.
Welcome to Brazen and Bold. I am so excited to introduce the listeners to the podcast to the beautiful, absolutely stunning, emotionally intelligent leader of the retail segment of our industry, Arif. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Heather. What an amazing introduction. I don't think I've ever had anyone introduce me like I've got goosebumps, and you've just made my ego 10 times bigger. So thank you.
So for those of you who aren't watching and just listening in, his head is now filling the entire screen.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is, I don't remember who made the intro, but someone said the two of you should talk. And I had just presented and you had just presented, and we found ourselves in I was in a blanket because I was freezing because I'm from Arizona and it was Ireland in January. But I have this blanket cuddled around me, and Arif I'm on the floor, sits right next to me on the floor, and we are crisscross applesauce like we're in primary school. And we wind up catching up and talking like, oh, where have you been my whole life? I think we spent maybe 1 to 2 hours just engrossed in a fast connection, sharing so much of our passion about the industry. And the whole time, yes, I was impressed by your passion for the industry and how you incorporate the tools of emotional intelligence in luxury retailing. But more than that, I kept being like, my goodness, what does he use on his skin? The whole time. I'm like, make him tell me everything.
You're so kind.
I've got to know your beauty secrets. So that's going to be fun for the listeners. I remember you mentioning triple masking, which right? Or something about traveling and keeping hydrated. Tell us, anybody who's on a plane or has a big event coming up, can you tell us about that? Because I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, it's called drenching. And I didn't realize there was a name for it, but I've been doing it for years. So I am a firm believer that more is more, which, excessive. My husband calls me excessive, but, when I go to a restaurant, I like to have a Diet Coke, a glass of wine, and a glass of water. That's excessive. And I'm the same when it comes, there we go. Yeah. And then it's the same when it comes to my skincare. So I think hydration is absolutely imperative. So beautiful hydrating ingredients in a very lightweight serum, low molecular weight. Then you want another serum, which is probably something that's a little bit more nourishing, which is really going to feed the skin. So I like to layer serums in. So I usually use about 2 serums. But if I'm traveling a lot, then I will sometimes do 2 or 3 serums, and I'll use some gua sha in between to really make sure I get absorption. And it's called drenching. And then I might layer on a very lightweight moisturizer, then put an occlusive oil on top so I lock everything in. So I love about 5 or 6 different products, and I might even put a mask on top. I'm excessive, but for me, I'm going to be 38 this year, and I've never had, not that I'm against it, because I'd love to have Botox, but I've never had any filler or Botox or anything like that. But I honestly think our industry has got such a plethora of incredible products and amazing research and technology. And you just have to kind of cherry pick what you want and how you use it. And that's me. I don't just stick to one brand. I use a host of different brands, and I completely change things up every couple of months.
Thank you for that little glimpse and secret, because as you told me, I was like, I am not recording this conversation, but I wish I were, because I'm like, I live in a desert, right? We're parched and dehydrated. I tell people who move to Phoenix, especially from a coastal climate, if they don't mind, just imagine they're moving into a dehydrator or an oven. People who come into the salon space and say, "Oh, I actually don't use heat on my hair. I don't blow out my hair." I look at them and I say, "Sweetheart, you walk out the door and that's the equivalent of using a flat iron." Okay. Arizona is like, I live in a blow dryer. I live in a dehydrator. So this drenching, okay, I didn't know what it was called, but the drenching concept, I love it. And yeah, especially on a plane a lot, it's beautiful. Now, that's cool. This is us catching up because we're cuddled in the blanket on the floor in Ireland. But the entirety of the conversation, and I mean this sincerely, I kept thinking, everybody I know needs to know Arif. And not only do you have this very lovely and open and genuine demeanor that puts anyone at ease, but you also have such a passion for the industry. And your story about how it all unfolded is so remarkable. So, will you take us back to that darling shop boy? What were you,
Yeah.
16 years old, 17 years old? Will
Yeah.
you tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about your journey? You have over 20 years in the industry now. And if people looking,
Yeah.
if you're going to look at this, if you're listening to the show, do everybody and yourself a favor and just go and take a look and be like, oh, she's not lying. Just look at, you look like you're 25. So how do you have 20 years in the industry? Tell us your story.
Well, what can I say? My infatuation with cosmetics began with my best friend Holly in our teenage years. Growing up in a small town, conservative town in the UK, boys wearing makeup and being overtly feminine wasn't really a thing. So Holly introduced me to the powers of makeup and skincare. I actually write a little bit about her in my book, which I'll get to. But actually, for me, it was really important because it was a very pivotal thing for me, finding that I was very self-conscious of myself growing up as a gay man, trying to find what I was. And I found that avenue through self-expression, creativity, through beauty products. And I got a job as a Saturday boy in this little store called Brad Beers, and it had a little perfumery that sold Lancome, Estee Lauder, Guerlain, some Dior fragrances, Chanel fragrances, Clarins. And I remember Diane was the most amazing person, and she took me under her wing, and she told me stories of all these brands, and she told me stories of Guerlain, and I really fell in love with Guerlain. And at that time, I was then starting my degree, and I started to work there more to save some money to kind of pay for my schooling. And one day, when you have a day off from university or college, um, you take some more shifts on, and it was just a weekday. I can't remember what day it was. And the area manager of Guerlain walked past, and I was selling a pot of Orchidea Imperial, which was a cream which was worth £245. And I didn't even worry about the price point or any objections. And I was telling her this story that Diane told me. And instantly, the area manager asked if I wanted a job in one of the flagship stores of the UK, which was the next city up from my little country bumpkin town, which was Southampton. So I said, yeah, I'll go there, I'll do that. And while I was finishing my degree, I worked there and I grew that business by 68%. And I
Time out.
quickly,
68%. And how old
68%.
and how old were you?
I was almost 20 years old. Yeah. So I was like 19 going on 20.
So as a teenage boy
Hmm.
from a small town,
Hmm.
finding yourself and your voice as a queer man, you found your expression there and your love of cosmetics. Thank you, Holly, right? That's her name.
Holly. Yeah.
And then you get swept into the big city and you take it by storm. How long
Hmm.
did it take you to experience that 68% growth?
We did that. I actually only stayed there for 7 months, and then I was headhunted to London.
Okay. So this is like, pew, this
Yeah, it was.
typical trajectory is going to be you work your way up, and then at 25 years in the industry, finally people know who you are. You were a teenager, barely 20, and you went
Mhm,
from little town to medium town, straight
mhm,
whisked away to London. Who headhunted you
mhm.
and who got you to London?
So I was working with Guerlain at the time, and I remember we were ranking out 22 brands. We were ranking 19 in the department, and after about 4 or 5 months, we were in the top five. So we were competing with Clinique at that time, Chanel, Dior, the big players, because of these sales that I was making, because I was so passionate about the transformative power and taking people on a journey and take them on a sensorial journey. So I was headhunted by Dior and Sicily at that time. I don't know if you guys have Sicily in the
We
US,
do.
but you definitely have. You do.
Well,
And to
that's
keep
the one
me
mask I
going,
use when I
do
travel. I
you?
use that mask.
Is
I
it
use
the
that mask when I travel.
Black Rose, or which
Yes, it
which one do
is.
you use?
The black
It's so
rose, and
good.
it's so delicious. So I am going to drench next time with serums and the
Mm.
mask. But keep going. Sorry to interrupt you.
No,
But
you
yes, we
need to
have
message me as well. Let me know like your drenching method because I might copy you as well.
I don't
Um,
have one. I don't have one yet. I'm getting
right,
one.
we'll work on that. We'll work on that. Um, so then I went to London because Guerlain wanted to keep me. And then within 1 year, I was 20. I wanted more. So I became a fragrance specialist, a skincare specialist. I trained under the Institute of Paris under Richard Hawkins, which was the education director at the time. And I remember Richard told me the story of Shalimar and he told me the story of Mahat Mahan. And he took me on a journey, and it was the most incredible breakthrough moment in my early 20s. And it was this story of love where the Raj of India had three wives, but he loved Mahat more than any other. He was devoted to her beyond exception, and he wanted her to bring him the heir to the throne. So, of course, in that society, he wanted a male heir to continue his legacy. So she became pregnant multiple times, but unfortunately gave birth to girls. So he was displeased, very much so. And they would go for walks under moonlight in these beautiful gardens where they would smell the iris and also the lavender and the rose and the smell of the vetiver as they walked underneath moonlight, where he would admit his undying love for her. And in those moments, he begged her, please create me the legacy, bear me the son that I need. And finally, she became pregnant and she bared him the heir and the son that he so deeply craved. But unfortunately, at that time, mortality rates were very, very high, especially for women who were bearing children. And through childbirth and labor, she died. He was absolutely grief stricken, completely bombarded with these emotions and despair that he had, falling into a deep depression, cursing himself for why did he do this to his undying love. So, in honor of her legacy, in the Shalimar Gardens where they used to walk, he erected the Taj Mahal, the ode to love for Mahatma Mahan. And in 1925, Guerlain launched Shalimar, the first Oriental ambery fragrance using ingredients from the Shalimar Gardens, which is a pinnacle to how we feel as lovers in an undying situation. And to this day, is the first Oriental fragrance, and it is an incredible, indelible ode to love. And I remember he took me on this journey. And for anyone listening, hopefully that story has inspired you to want to go out and smell Shalimar. Shalimar is just incredibly rich. It's leathery. It has a top note of bergamot. It's rich. It's resinous, but it's got this smokiness and this inherent mystery to it. And the way that he created that moment for me and captured me, I said, I need to be in education. This is my lifelong goal. If I'm inspired like this, I want to then inspire. So within a few years, I was working 3 years with Guerlain. I became consultant of the year, where I was the number one bestseller in the country. I did some time in the Maison Guerlain, which is on the Champs Elysees in Paris, where I got trained again, which was
That's
absolutely amazing. And then I also was launching fine fragrances with Thierry Vasseur, the head perfumer of the brand, when he came to visit London in Harrods. And I remember I was drinking champagne with him at the Bulgaria Hotel in Knightsbridge until 3 o'clock in the morning, as you do, the head perfumer of Guerlain. And I said to him, you have to tell me what is the concept? How do you create fragrances? You're such a genius. And I said, how did you create La Petite Robe Noire, which was our newest launch? And he says, well, I just thought in this amazing French accent, well, I just thought I just see this woman here, and I think the cut of her, her clothes and her dress and all this. And then I use velvet, and I wanted to use this ingredient and that ingredient, and voila, La Petite Robe Noire. And I was like, wow. And it completely spun my head on the conceptual and how people work in that sphere, and how beauty is so creative, it's so artistic, and it's not just a physical, tangible product, but there is so much emotion behind it. And I knew that I wanted that to be my life's work. So that was Guerlain. And then I was 23 and I was headhunted by Lancôme and L'Oreal. I became the youngest business manager in Selfridges, and I managed a £3 million business, 25 members of staff, and I grew that business by 17%. And then I was headhunted again by Hourglass. I'm sure for our US listeners, people know Hourglass Cosmetics, where I became National Sales and Education Manager. And I did that for a couple of years. And I toured Miami and Canada. I toured all the Sephora stores. I actually came to the US and I ran events. I wrote the training for them, which was amazing. And I worked with Carissa Janes herself, the founder, and Laura James, who was the global education director. And then, unfortunately, in my mid to late 20s, I was made redundant. And I hate the stories, and it's not fallacy, but a lot of times, unfortunately, American companies in Europe, we have much stricter, tighter laws on employment. But I think in America, sometimes it's much easier to make people redundant. So even though I grew Hourglass by 36% nationally in the UK, that wasn't enough. And I was made redundant a few days before my bonus, which was really hard to swallow. And I fell very quickly into depression because I remember my granddad telling me, if you work hard, and I was putting in 70 hours a week. I mean, I was working hard. I launched Harrods. I grew Liberty to £1 million business. I restructured Space and K. I worked in the States. I wrote the first skincare training for Equilibrium, which was trained across the stores and then globally. Crazy. So all these achievements I made, I felt, well, if I've done such a good job and I've created growth and I've worked really hard and I've never had a warning or I've never been put on report, everyone's been happy with everything. How have I just lost my job? And it took me a lot of time to find myself. And then I was very lucky in my late 20s. I started working for a consultancy. And I learned the ropes of becoming a consultant, about becoming independent. And my actual position was education operations manager. And we looked after at one point, there was 9 brands on the portfolio where I'd write all the training, I would deliver all the training and work on thinking about the operations of the shop floor and that customer journey piece. One of the brands we had on our portfolio was Huda Beauty. And Huda is now $1 billion brand, but I launched it first in the UK in Harrods. I remember we had a queue of over 200 people waiting for it at launch. It was crazy, and we sold so much lipstick on the first day of launch. It was mental. And I said to myself, this is good working for other brands, but I'm never going to do this again. I have to find a way to bring what I want to do to the industry. And then when I was 30 years old, I launched AI Beauty Consultancy, which is my business, which stands for my initials. It's eponymous. So if anyone thinks I'm an AI genius, as in artificial intelligence, the caveat is I'm not. I know a little bit. However, it's my initials. That's my business. And it also stands for always innovating, because that's what I want to do. So that's my career, corporate, up to when I launched my business.
It is remarkable, and I think not only I think your passion for it and the experience is so palpable, and it's absolutely we cannot remove your accomplishments and what you've gone through with your passion and the care that you take. It is clear that that's what drives you and inspires you, and the always innovating part like that. I like that little AI always innovating because it is such an important thing, and I think that the people that I like to learn from most and the people that I find myself so drawn to, whether it's in the industry or in friendships, it's people who are always looking for growth. And it doesn't mean that they're lacking contentment or peace. It just means they know that there is more to learn and more to develop. And I'm typically afraid of people who know everything. I'm like, you probably you're somewhat dangerous to me if you have all of the answers, but if you have all the questions, man, now you're something. And to be able to understand that there's always more to learn and to bring on to what you're doing is so beautiful. I love that. I mean, you've worked with royalty, global luxury brands, and all kinds of top tier. The list is beautiful and impressive. And some of them I'm like, no, I am not fancy enough to know who that is. But I've heard of a few of them. And I'm curious, what do you believe it is that separates these top performers from the rest? What do you think it is that just elevates some of these brands? And you did mention some in the emotional component, the storytelling and so forth. But what else do you think it is in that?
What a great question. I think honestly, when we think of luxury, and you're quite right, I picked fragrances for Rihanna. I have met the Princess of Thailand. I've met some royal family, which I'm not allowed to talk about because I've signed NDAs. So when I was working in Harrods and Selfridges, is almost like Bergdorf Goodman. I think that's your equivalent, right, in terms of
Mhm.
the super luxe retailers.
Yes.
When you are a top performer, you get access to these people because of your service and also because of your ability.
They get
Oh,
access to
sorry.
you,
Yes,
actually.
they get access
Let's
to you.
let's put this the right direction. Lucky them.
Lucky
Okay,
them.
I said it,
Yes.
not you.
Well, actually, I met the Hoff, David Hasselhoff. I've done his makeup, so you guys would know who he is. Yes,
That's
before one of
awesome.
the BAFTA ceremonies. Yeah, so he was. There's a story there for another time. So yeah, I think what differentiates is being human. I know that sounds like a cliche, and I know that sounds perhaps a bit alien, but when we think about service and when we think about doing things in an appropriate manner, we sometimes have a tendency to lose our humanity because we second guess if we're doing things right or if we're doing things wrong or if we put our foot in it, you know? And I think sometimes when you are yourself and you are so natural that you create that trust instantly. And that's all people want. They want integrity. They want people to be completely authentic. And I think sometimes that's skewed when we're thinking about luxury or service. So I think the person you see now, you know, I think is the person I've always been.
Mhm.
And regardless of situations, if I'm talking to someone buying some fish and chips, a very British thing to do, and we do this by the way, buying fish and chips, talking to someone over the counter, or talking to a member of royalty, I am the same person. There is no difference, and I think that's so important.
Thank you for sharing that. That would speak to what drew me into our conversation and how happy I was to have met you and connected with you. Where um, I meet a lot of people. You meet a lot of people too, and I meet a lot of amazing people. I'm not gonna lie. I haven't met a jerk yet in this industry. I meet the best people. This industry is full of generous, enthusiastic, passionate, connected, and generous people. Like they're just we have a beautiful industry, and like I've told people many times, and we have more fun while we're at it. But that being said, there was also that special extra something when I met you, and I think that it's because now you've demystified and decoded it. It wasn't just your dewy skin, which I was thinking that might be what it was, but it's that you show up as yourself fully, no matter what space you're in, and that is so powerful. And I do think we can tend to get in our own way. Well, do how do I do this right? Or I'm now working with this high-end guest, or oh my gosh, this product is, as you mentioned, that cream that you were selling without a batting an eye at the age of 18 or whatever. This is $300 or 300 pounds. Like, how am I going to do this? You just are yourself. And when you're sincere, when we step into sincerity and knowing, how can I serve you and help connect the dots for this concern you're having, or I know how beautiful this cream is, I cannot wait to show it to you. That's not sales. You were the salesperson in these companies and you were climbing the ranks, but you didn't sell anything really. What you did was connect and create an emotional story and energy around it. Um, it sounds like, I mean, you learned a lot in this process. I want to know when you walk into a salon or a spa, because you do consult and people can have you out, which, I mean, to to whom it may concern listening to this podcast, we want Arif to come to the States to come on a world tour, and we want to invite him to Phoenix and Scottsdale and LA. So anyone listening, do me a favor and let's make this happen, because I want you here. Just to visit. You can go back to your husband, but I would love to have you here. Bring him. It's nice. It's a fun place to visit. But I want to know, when you walk into these salons or these spas or the spaces that you go into, what is the first mistake that you notice? Like, I'm looking around going, oh, we got to change that. What is that you notice most commonly when working with these brands and these companies that you're helping to increase and grow?
Yeah, so I think if I was to give like a bit of context, so at the moment, I shifted when I launched my consultancy. I did a lot of retail pieces, and then I was brought in with one of the most luxury spas in the world, Amman, where before COVID, I trained all of their global locations. Actually, it was five fragrance, so they were launching a fragrance of $350 into every location, and then they didn't have a strategy in terms of how to sell it through. So I created the strategy and the education around that, and we had a sellout in 6 weeks. And then I rewrote a global sellout, and then I rewrote the training for skincare, which then I was for Martin Essentials. I did the PR event with Vogue and the CEO Christina, who is an incredible fashion model, who is now the CEO of Armani Essentials, and I launched them in Harrods. So, yes, so that's how then I got into spa and into salon. And actually, well, what connected me so much was that I actually didn't realize that there was this necessity or this need for analyzing service and retraining retail, because I thought that naturally people in salon would be able to sell because it's service driven, where when you're in retail and you're on the shop floor, it's much more different because you don't have a treatment to lean back on. You have that first tangible product, and also you haven't got space to create connection and to build trust because you don't have someone in a treatment chair or on a couch. So
Right.
your trust has to be built through conversation. How do you make someone fall in love with a product but trust you within 30 seconds? That's the art. And the art is about creating desire, but it's doing it authentically. So when I first understood salon and spa, what I saw was that there was so much lack of confidence. There was confidence in terms of doing treatments or having service, but there was no confidence in aftercare or positioning something else that was outside of the norm, which in our case is selling product or retail. I also noticed that there was a very, very unique mindset where people could charge $300, $400, $500 for a massage, a haircut, whatever it is, facial, but they didn't see the value in the $30 for a product. So that for me was mental, because coming from someone who buys product and has built their life's work through actual tangible,
Right.
and my desk is full of product everywhere. I saw the value that you could use something day and night, that you had cumulative results, and after 3 months, you would then replenish. Not that you'd have a haircut and 3 weeks later it would grow back, or a color that you'd have to get done in
Yeah.
4 weeks
Yeah.
after. So for me, the value is in the product because it lasts longer and you get better, more cumulative results. So that was a huge mindset thing. So I think first of all was the confidence, that mindset, but the thing from a consumer, the consumer piece was feeling as though you are just a number and it's a
Yeah.
revolving door where people feel as though they are elevating service, or they're trying to position things correctly, or they're trying to make you feel as though it's a luxury environment by saying, "Hi, Heather. I'm the therapist. Today we're doing this on you today. Great." And then a very quick consultation, and jump up on the bed for me or take a seat here for me. And then afterwards, it's like, "So, would you like to go for any of these products?" And you're thinking, no, because you've not made me feel special. You've not connected with me. You don't know who I am. You've not asked the right questions. So I think, and I've done this, I have worked with some of the most luxurious locations globally. And yet I've gone in as a mystery shopper to experience the customer journey from a storytelling angle and that whole perceived journey to the end route of how do they upsell, link sell, product sell. And I'm like, treatment was amazing. They were very polite. They were wonderful, magic hands, great what they did. But did they make me feel something? No. Did they connect with me on an emotional level? No. Do I just feel like everyone else who walks through the door? Yes. Is that an experience that I'm going to remember? No. And that, I think, is where the magic is creating experiences, is making people feel that they are so individual, they are so unique, and they're so remembered, and going on a journey with them.
Hey, business owners. Yes, you. I know you're juggling it all: marketing, admin tasks, websites, podcasts, social media. The list never ends. That's where Spark comes in. We're a virtual assistant company built just for small business owners, because once you're able to delegate, we know you'll be able to dominate. Our clients are seeing up to 30% increase in social media engagement and sales, all by letting us handle the behind the scenes work. Not to mention an incredible boost in flexibility, profit, and time. So scan the QR code right now to schedule a free chat with my team. Let's make you efficient AF and help you focus on what you do best: growing and leading your business.
Okay, so yes, I will marry you. Um, no, but this, like, even as you're describing this, so you clearly have a power with connection and storytelling. Like that's standing out to me as I'm following through on this journey. Even when you're talking about the Guerlain fragrance, the Oriental, which I don't remember what the name of it was, but I love fragrance. I want to go find it just to experience it, whether or not it matches with my skin chemistry and I like it. I'm going to go find that fragrance because of that story you told me. And I'm not being funny. I also love fragrance. But it's clear that you're able to create this emotional energy and it is not fabricated. You've touched back on multiple times authenticity and making someone feel special. You have not once said, and then I make sure I close the deal. And then this is the strategy and this is the approach, because that is precisely what turns a consumer off. You're going in a totally different direction. And even as you paint the picture of the salon journey or the spa journey that you were in, I I feel like I could see the room, I could see the technician. I felt like I was with you in it. And I'm not sure if you do that on purpose, but that seems like part of the trick is that I was immersed in the journey with you, and I'm thinking that that skill you have might be something that we could learn from in helping it become a customer focused experience. What exactly then, and I appreciate this whole like this made me feel great hands, great treatment, everything, the spa was beautiful, not memorable. It's like 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 0. That's a huge disconnect. Doesn't sound like it comes from lack of confidence. What does it actually look like to create that connection? And if you can figure out how to encapsulate it or give our listeners an idea of what does that look like in real life? Because we all care about our people. I don't think anybody gets into this industry thinking, I want to treat you like a number. Somehow we're missing a step in there or a component. Guide us to a little bit of what that could be like in real life. So I'm listening as a stylist or a salon owner, and I'm thinking, I'm going to take that and do it today.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for your kind words. It's called Shalimar, by the way. Shalimar by
Right.
Guerlain. It's amazing.
Shalimar.
Story is everything to me. Stories are 22 times more memorable than facts alone. Stories are intrinsic in everything that we do. We're human beings by nature, and storytelling was how we move from hunter-gatherers in our kind of society. And also we were creating moments and passing information that inherently created language. So stories are a part of our physiology. Now, for a sale to be completely correct, you must create two things. There must be desire and there must be logic, but desire will always succumb the logical part of the brain. So desire has to be created, and you create desire by accessing emotion. So we have to think that everything that we look at as a business must be seen as through an emotional lens. And what I mean by this is exactly what you said, Heather, in terms of the tick box and then 0 for the emotion. And what's dangerous is that 20 years ago, the best would always be the best because they were the best. But now there are lots of the best everywhere. And we are in a society and we're in a market that is oversaturated in our industries. So, how do we differentiate the best from the best? It is how someone feels being with the best. So the emotional strategy is the most important strategy. And I've been very lucky to speak on stages. I'm now, I'm speaking internationally. And sometimes I had to pinch myself a little bit when I'm on stage with like scientists and vice presidents of huge brands. And there's little old me they're asking to come on stage because people have lost the ability to think about emotional intelligence and people only see commerciality. And I also completely understand the bottom line is so important.
Right.
But emotional intelligence and emotional journeying adds far more depth to the bottom line in ways that you can't even possibly imagine. It makes someone feel consistent. It makes someone feel seen. It helps you elevate service. It helps you link sell. It helps you add on additional treatments. What it also does is we've actually got studies that show that clients that are emotionally invested into a business will spend 70% more in their lifetime.
Oh,
Yeah. And for every dollar that you spend in education and training, you will get, I think it's $4.51 back. So $4.51 back. And that was a Forbes study, which was amazing. And there's a lot of Harvard studies that I quote as well. And I think stories are such a powerful way of creating emotion, because just like I did earlier with Shalimar, which was intentional, but the rest of the way I speak is not intentional. I think it's just very natural to me.
right.
But as you know, I've got a love of books. So I've read, I did a degree in English. So I've read Shakespeare and Chaucer and the Brontes and Jane Austen. And I love all of that. That gives me passion. Like that romanticism of, saying things in such a romantic way is so beautiful. And I think because our industry and indeed the time that we're living in has become so quick, and we're looking for those quick endorphins, like just, scrolling through, everything has to be so fast. And you can still have that same amount of time, but you can slow things down and say smaller things with more meaning. So I think looking at your consultation is so important. This is what I do. I work with some of the most beautiful locations, and we do a lot of work in terms of educating their consultation to make what I call the conversational consultation. So it's not actually just about where they are, what they're doing. It is about where they've been, their growth as a person. It's about allowing them to have trust to open up to you, because if they trust and open up, then actually that trust then becomes the trust into you recommending them products, and the trust they have in accepting that recommendation. It's also creating that emotional connection, which is currency. We think of money as being currency, but in our world, it's the emotional connection that we have that is our currency for the future. So I think thinking about your consultation, thinking about the emotional journey, having an emotional lens on everything you do, and creating things in a very easy way for clients that is very natural and authentic is the key to success.
All right. So let that sink in. That is such a standalone takeaway that I hope everyone captures that. Take a note of the minute of the podcast that was said, and play it for every single member of your team. It is completely underrated, though people are understanding more and more about emotional intelligence. And this discussion is happening even in corporate boardrooms. But the way of doing business 20 years ago, which was the best is the best and we're going to win, is not how we are going to win moving forward. We're going to win by connecting with one another, with understanding their journey and what they need, and being able to present it in a way that removes friction, provides solutions, and gives them that nurturing connection they need. These were called soft skills before. These are no longer optional. These are the only skills you need, because there's a lot of technicians. And I'm even saying this in other industries. Across the board, your granddaddy's way of doing business is going to alienate the modern consumer, the modern team member, the workforce. I mean, it is about connecting. And I would even go so far as to say that what Arif just shared about that emotional connection, understanding the journey, where we've been and where we're going, not just today our goal is, right? Is what will help us lead our teams moving forward. We can create that and bring that out in our leadership style, in our team meetings, and in our one on ones. That alone will skyrocket our business numbers. And yes, the bottom line matters. Thank you for saying that, because I think sometimes we can get really far swung into one side of the pendulum, which is, I care so much. And we feel like we're running just a charity event, right? Um, what if we could care that deeply, and we could also understand the business component, marry the two of them together, and they would have a beautiful, beautiful baby? That is the dream for business owners. And I think when we can understand that ourselves and internalize it in our own way of being and leadership style, we can now translate it to our teams, and our minds will absolutely be blown. I know you've worked with a lot of, like, move away from the hard sell, and yet moving away from the hard sell and working with you. Tell us about the type of success stories or growth that you've seen in working with different brands. I would say, truth be told, because most of the listeners are in business, they run teams. So, what about in like a salon or spa space or growth space? What kind of numbers have you seen? Real time, real facts. Because you know what, you just talked all about feeling, which is important,
Mhm.
but the
Mhm.
facts support the feeling. So, tell me about those
Yeah.
facts and what you're seeing in results.
Yeah, I love that so much. So I just want to, quickly say that I have worked with some of the biggest brands. So I've worked with like Cow and Kerasilk, and I've created a train the trainer for emotional sales training, which is for their whole training, which
Hmm.
is for the Middle East, Europe, and America. I've also trained all of the global trainers for Schwarzkopf. I was in Vienna last year in February, and I did an amazing kind of emotional storytelling training, because even the people at the top don't know how to do this at the highest level of corporate. And they come to me, which is, it's so wonderful. So I'll give you an example. I was working with a salon in January, and I got an email last month, and a girl achieved her retail target by 250%, over 250%. Yep, that was a 2-day training that I did with the whole team. She
2
achieved
days.
250. Yeah,
And she 2.5x'd what she did.
yeah, 250%. Yeah,
Wow.
which I think is quite good.
Take it. I'll take it.
My Happier Indoors training. Happier is the body of hair and beauty in the UK. So I have my retail excellence course. So this is a 6-month program, 3 modules, 1 day every 2 months with some follow up. That was beta tested in 5 different locations. And before you get your endorsement, you have to show the growth. So the average growth of retail sales after retail excellence implementation was 120% increase.
Yeah. Wow.
Which is cool. And for the core, which is my my online education hub / membership, I have one girl. I hope she doesn't mind me saying her name, Tara, who is amazing. And I think she's phenomenal. She's come leaps and bounds since she first joined in October. Honestly, she's done so well. She's improved her retail by over 600%.
Unbelievable. Okay.
But let me just caveat, because, she was barely selling. I mean, she had very confidence issues. She was selling 1 or 2 products every couple of weeks. And now she's gone to selling multiple products every single day. And also Kelly, she's increased her overall business by over 40%, her treatment and her skincare. So usually she'd be making about £8,000 a month. And then we had a conversation 2 months ago, and she's making about £13,000, £14,000 a month now, because now she sells as a package. So she links her retail and her service product onto her treatment. And she's come leaps and bounds as well. So for the individual, for the business, the Connaught, the Almond Spa, the Connaught I've been working with increased retail by 30%. Which is really difficult to do because it's super luxurious environment where we have multimillionaire clients, celebrity clients, royalty. So you can't push too hard. And in that setting where you can't push too hard, the emotional sales is the most important and the imperative way of doing it, because you can softly sell, but at a much higher value than a hard sell. Is that
So
enough?
no, tell me more. Do you have 5 more hours? It's incredible. It is a great snapshot. By not being enough, I mean to say, I want to hear all of the stories, because the storytelling component and is so compelling. So congrats to Tara and the other member of the core, which is the Collective of Retail Excellence. I love the acronym. So the Collective of Retail Excellence, this is an online hub, training, workshop. This is something that I knew when you mentioned it to me, and I couldn't remember the name, but thank you for reminding me. Core, the members of this community. This is the only emotionally intelligent sales training for retail. This is the only thing in our industry that focuses on that, and this is something that anybody can join.
Yeah. So
I'm not teeing you up. This is not a practice rehearsed sales pitch. I actually want to know, because I have a team of 16 incredibly wonderful, passionate, dedicated stylists who, oh my gosh, I want to unlock what you're unlocking for these people, for them, sincerely. So I want to know, how do people find it, join it, do it, bathe in it, feel it?
So the core is an extension of me. There's no bravado. There's no shininess. It is just about emotional connection, and it's emotional sales training. And all my years as an educator, we know and we understand that segmented learning, consistent learning that allows the mind to absorb and digest the information, not 8 hours of intensive training, but small snippets consistently add to better results. Because we all know what happens when something happens. We have a training, 3 months later, everyone forgets and they're back to old habits. This is human nature. We are habitual by nature unless we work and do mindset shift. So I created the core exactly for this. Very simply, every month there is one theme. So March is all about creating desire. So all of the tenets that I think is so important to all of my training that I deliver globally, I then conceptualize into themed monthly workshops. There are 2 calls a month, really simple. So if you can give me 2 hours, then I can transform your team. The first call is always live UK time, but is recorded and put onto a portal that everyone has access to through their own login. This is a themed call based on the theme of the month. Nice and easy. There's also downloadable cheat sheets to support the team with that theme. So for instance, if someone can't make the live, as a operator or as a manager, you could say, right, Natasha, you have a white space next Wednesday at 12 o'clock. I would like you to do the core. Here is your sheet. And then you know they've done it because the accountability is there because they've written out the sheet. At the end of
Nice.
the month, there is a community call. So they have access to me and they can ask about anything about their business, about their sales. But there's also a 24-hour Facebook where I try to build the community. I try to really push them based on the theme. We try to create really engaging conversations. I might even throw in a competition now and again. And what I love is that the community helps the community, which is the most important thing, because I have therapists, I have hairdressers, I have salon owners, I have technicians from all over, and they all are a part of this journey together. And it's not brand specific. So if you work in retail, it's just about, or if you work in salon or spa, sorry, it's just about the retail. So it's just about learning the undercurrents of the emotion of selling. So it's the only emotional sales training. And it's called The Core. And you can go to www.thecoremembers.com and you can join, or of course you can have a call with me and find out more. But I've made it really accessible. So you can put one person on it, up to 3 people, or bespoke for larger teams. And I've even got corporate brands in the UK utilizing it as a part of an initial training for their teams. So it segments really beautifully wherever you want it to work.
Thank you for sharing about that. I think that's fascinating and has the potential. The more, I mean, clearly the people who've already taken part and experienced the core to catapult their connection with their clients. And then, of course, as a natural side effect, their sales. I would love to know, what is one way, let's say a stylist listening right now, can begin using storytelling with their next
Okay.
guest? What is one way? I'm going to see Beverly in 2 hours after our podcast wraps. I'm not, but let's just pretend. How can I start using storytelling as soon as I'm done listening to this?
Ask her, what does she love? What products does she love, or she enjoys, or she uses, or that she has used before, or a client has used because of her recommendation? Then ask her to be really honest and talk as though she's talking to a friend over a cup of tea or coffee, and talk about her love of the product, why she loves it, and think about the sensorial elements. Is it the smell? Is it the texture? It could be anything. It could be how it works on the scalp. It could be the condition it leaves the hair. It could be whatever it is. And just tell her just to play around with those facets and just be really natural and say to the client, I love this because why? I'd love you to experience this as well.
Okay.
That's it.
So I'm going to pretend like I'm sitting with my guest and we are besties having tea or Fanta.
That's it.
And we
Fanta.
are, and I'm telling you, yes, I am obsessed with, I'm obsessed with this because, and here's why I think you're going to love it. Because the truth
That's it.
is, I was just telling you before the podcast started, and this is not a shameless plug, and it's my podcast. I can do whatever I want. I like this because I live in the desert and my lips are always parched. And especially when I'm on camera, I don't realize how much I drink until I'm on camera trying not to drink so much. And I don't realize how often I reapply lip balm. And so, Arif, I love this because it's natural, it's emollient, it's a mask. It's like an overnight hydration mask. But I've got to tell you, there's a little bit of lavender in it. It's so subtle,
Mm.
but it's just enough to feel natural and like leave a nice fragrance. And the feeling is amazing. And it's really soft, not sticky. I don't do sticky. I don't do lipstick or anything like that. Sometimes lip gloss, but I love it because of that. Anyway, especially if you come to Phoenix, I think you'll like this lip wrap. And when you're with me, I might even leave some like on the nightstand next to your bed so that when you wake up, you are not parched like most people visiting. Anyway, I actually truly bought this for all of my girlfriends for Christmas last year. So anyway, I think you'll really like it. Like that?
Treat yourself. That's it. Treat yourself. I love you to have it. That's it. And that's the first step. That's the first step. And then we can go into far deeper, because I train the tactics of reconfirmation, which was all in January, and dealing with objections was all in February. So, and there's a whole module on storytelling. So just getting people comfortable with talking. And this is something that I don't want to, I know I could talk days on this, but
Can we do a
this is
part
not
two? And I
time.
mean it sincerely. Can we do
We
a
can do a
part
part
two?
two. We can
Okay.
do a part two. I think there is an issue in our industry, which is based on our younger generation. I'm actually going to be speaking at Spa Peeps in Ireland in 3 weeks' time about this, around the younger generation. And the younger generation have been brought up in a social media era, so they don't have the ability to communicate like the millennials before them. And communication is such a vital tactic. I know people and kids now, they can't even pick up the phone. They can text, they can't talk. And going on and telling someone something across a counter or asking for a piece of information is absolutely petrifying to some of our youth today. So actually, we've lost the ability to communicate. So for our team members, we just say, you need to sell more, you need to sell more, you need to sell more. We're not giving them tools to achieve that. We need to create bite-sized steps where they feel comfortable in communicating, not thinking about the sale, because the communication equals the sale. The sale comes after the trust is built. So don't worry about the sale. The sale will happen if the first bit and the grounding of the communication is done first. So get them to feel confident and feel comfortable being a little bit uncomfortable. Get them to share what they love. Get them to share their passion and just see, because you will be so surprised and shocked, but you will get sales out of that and they will sell. And then that will become the spiraling confidence boosting effect for them, which is so amazing. I love it. I love working with people. Like, I love seeing the transformation in teams, like from going from being unconfident, inconfident, not being able to deal with situations to feeling on top of the world. I still get texts. I still get, people email me and they text me or they WhatsApp me and they tell me of their sales. And I'm like a father proud of his children. That's how I feel, I love it. It gives me so much joy.
That passion is palpable. And I think anyone who gets to work with you is going to leave the experience as a better human, and also as a better human who's better at what they're doing in that connection piece. And I love that. The practice of just talking about something, like anybody listening today can go and share with their friend who happens to be in their chair why they love something and what they love that it does. I don't sell skincare or this lip mask, this lip wrap thing at all, right? I just really sincerely like it. And it's so easy for me to tell somebody that I care about something that I think will make their life better or easier. Thinking in those terms is going to transform how people do it. And then a bite sized, systemized approach is going to absolutely help them assimilate it and learn to go from behind their phone to in front of a human actually making these connection points. So thank you. I want to know,
Yeah.
besides the core, it's called thecoremembers.com. Is that right? So besides thecoremembers.com, where can our listeners and our beauty community who wants to grow alongside you find you and learn more?
My website, www.aibeauty.co.uk. Remember, AI stands for my name, or always innovating, not AI. So that has that access to everything. And you can read about all the work, all my testimonials, the brands I've worked with, everything. And then my book, Storyseller, which I wrote with Nicola Rowley, who's ex-BBC journalist. But top line, it basically teaches you how to sell through the power of storytelling. So even brand building, thinking about your salon, how you're communicating your message, lots of beautiful frameworks in there, hero journey framework, and being comfortable being uncomfortable. And, I think it was so important when we wrote this, because chapter 1 and chapter 2 is Arif's story, Nicola's story, and chapter 3 is vulnerability. And actually, the more vulnerable you are, and this is definitely time for another podcast, the more vulnerable you are, the more ability you have to connect with people, because we're all vulnerable beings and we're all looking for truth and authenticity in people that we
Yeah.
want to go on journeys with. And that's all we do. We are facilitating the journey for our clients' transformation. And if we do that in a very human way, in a really beautiful way, where we share our passion, we share our love, then the journey is beautiful for both them and us.
Yeah. And as somebody that I love to follow and learn from has said, Ram Dass, we are all just walking each other home. And
I
so if
love
we can
that.
remember that, it's going to be
I
such an
love that
easy
so
way.
much.
Yeah. I love his work. He's such a beautiful human. But we're all just walking each other home. So if we can think of it in those terms, well, I don't want you to walk home with dry, sad hair or chapped lips because I'm your friend, Arif. And why wouldn't I share with my friends something that's made my life easier? So thank you so, so much. And that's why I have you on this show. Why wouldn't I share with others something that I have found that I thought was so impactful? So, again, we will include everything that RF has shared with us as far as the links, where to find him, his core membership, etc., in our show notes. In addition, do your friends a favor. And if something from this show has made an impact on you, please share it with them. Thank you again for joining us and thank you for listening.
Thank you so much.